Cade Cunningham is on the verge of a breakout year. Now, if that name sounds familiar to you, well, it should, because this guy was the first overall pick only 2 years ago back in the 2021 NBA draft. Now, that draft wasn't really hyped up too much, because there wasn't that much star power in it, unlike some of these other drafts. I mean, 3 years ago, we had Zion Williamson going number 1, and John Morant, RJ Barrett, those guys had tons of hype. The top 3 was amazing that year, and the draft that just passed, who went? Brandon Miller, Scoot Henderson, and I cannot forget Victor Wembanyama. Yep, this year's draft was absolutely stacked. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for 2023's draft, where it mainly just starred Cade Cunningham, and yeah, that was a fantastic pick for the Detroit Pistons, but I don't know, Pistons fans, maybe they'd have wanted to get the first overall pick in a different year. Hell, they would have loved a guy like Ant Edwards a year earlier or whatever, but it is what it is, alright. They're just going to have to ride it out with Cade Cunningham, who I believe could be a superstar. I mean, this guy has superstar written all over him. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see much of that last season, as 12 games into his second season in the NBA, Cade Cunningham suffered a shin injury. Unfortunately, it was on his left leg, and it wasn't looking too serious until it came out that he would need surgery on the leg, and that surgery is what caused him to miss the rest of the NBA season. His sophomore year was cut short. Tragic, but during those 12 quick games, he showed some promise. I mean, his points, he was averaging about 20 points. Of course, it is a smaller sample size, so we'll take these numbers with a grain of salt, but he was averaging 20 points his sophomore year, along with, I want to say 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and his shooting percentage from the field was about 41, which was the same thing as it was his rookie season, and his shooting from the three-point line, well, that was about, I want to say, 27%, so he's never really been a fantastic three-point shooter, but maybe that changes heading into this third year. And the Detroit Pistons are desperate for a guy like Cade Cunningham to work out, because besides him, their draft history recently has been pretty abysmal. I saw this tweet on Twitter the other day where they were just going through the Pistons' last draft history, and it was awful. The only names that anybody could really recognize were maybe like an Andre Drummond, and Andre Drummond was very good for the organization, but he was more of a stat patter really, and when he went outside of the organization, his numbers dropped. And he was really at his peak, he was probably be like the 3rd best player on a championship team, maybe even 4th, filling in that DeAndre Ayton, Kevin Love big man role. But of course, I honestly believe Kevin Love is way better than Andre Drummond will ever be. Dude was a rebounding monster, and that was about it. That can only take you so far. So Cade Cunningham, yeah, Detroit's fate is put all onto this guy. That's a lot of pressure. I mean, in his rookie year, he averaged about 17 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists in 64 games. So yes, the sample size was a lot larger, obviously, and his shooting percentage was about the same as his sophomore year, which I mentioned earlier, so I'm not going to repeat that. But basically, this guy's, he's shown flashes of being a star, and that's all that Detroit really needs at this point, because that's how desperate they are. Now, in his 2 seasons in being in the league, I want to say his rookie year, the Pistons were pretty bad. They were pretty bad, but there's not, how much are you going to ask out of a rookie like Cade Cunningham? I mean, he's coming into a terrible organization. Yes, I am stating terrible because these guys haven't been good since the Ben Wallace era, back when they were won that championship against Kobe and the Lakers in the early 2000s. Yeah, this franchise has been pretty abysmal since then, if we're being honest. Anyway, in his rookie season, I want to say the Pistons won 23 games. So they won 3 more games with Cade Cunningham. I guess. I'm sure Dwayne Casey would have loved to see improvement there. And the fact that they stuck around with Dwayne Casey for so long is actually kind of mind-boggling. Let's be real. I mean, when you take into account the current lifespan of an NBA coach, and then you realize what Dwayne Casey did in Detroit, you'd be quite surprised how he lasted so long. Let's see. Dwayne Casey was with the organization for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons, and he only had 1 season where he hit 500. Yeah, all of the other seasons he coached, they were 20 wins or less. Yes, 23 wins was his second highest winning season. So I guess Dwayne Casey was brought into the team. They made an Eastern Conference off the backs of Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond. They made an Eastern Conference first round appearance. And of course they lost in the first round, but that was off the back of Blake Griffin. I mean, Blake Griffin, you've heard in his interviews, he played through injuries and a ton of them that season just to bring Detroit basketball back into the playoffs, because that's how much he cared for the city. And the city didn't really show that much love back to him, let's be real, they didn't. So he was shipped out, Drummond was shipped out, they went into full rebuild mode. And since Dwayne Casey was still quite new, they decided, okay, Dwayne Casey's going to get us through this rebuild. And he was put into a rebuild and never got out of it. I mean, shit. Those last 4 years with Dwayne Casey were terrible. You thought they would get better. They didn't. Anyway, that terrible season, I want to say Cade Cunningham's rookie year, that would lead to them drafting Jaden Ivey, who I want to say is a shooting guard. So he's set to play alongside Cade Cunningham as a guard duo. So Jaden Ivey is another bright spot on this young team. Another talent that I think could work. So maybe Cade Cunningham playing off of his rookie year was just to set up getting Jaden Ivey. And you kind of got to say that for his sophomore season as well, because again, the team was terrible. They only had 17 wins. Yeah, they were bad. I mean, they weren't as bad with Cade Cunningham on the roster because, like I said, he got hurt 12 games into his sophomore season. So remember that, which is why they played so bad this year. And that poor play is what led to them getting, what, a top 5 pick. They did fall in the NBA lottery. Sucks for Detroit fans. But even with them slipping, they were still able to pick up a solid prospect like Ausar Thompson. I was about to say amen. I just made a video about those two. How could I get them mixed up? Yes, they picked up a solid forward in Ausar Thompson, who I think could fit fantastic alongside Cade Cunningham. In fact, those videos about the twins are the reason I'm making this video about Cade, because it just brought me to the realization that, oh my god, Cade is going to have a bounce back season. Maybe he even wins. I don't know if they would give him most improved because he's coming back from an injury, not really from playing bad. But him and Chet Holmgren, I believe, are on the same trajectory. They both missed almost all of last season due to injuries. And I got Chet Holmgren winning Rookie of the Year. So my expectations for Cade are extremely high. I think this Detroit Pistons team, do they make the playoffs? Like I said in the Thompson video, they make the playoffs. Maybe. They only have a chance because they're on a weak-ass Eastern Conference. So maybe they slip in as a play-in team and get lucky in the play-in. But honestly, I could see them as like a 10th, 9th seed by the end of the year with about 30-ish wins. 30, 40 wins. Low 40s, high 30s. That's basically my projection for this team. But hell, high 30s is almost doubling what they were able to do last year. They would double the amount of wins they had last season of what they won, 16 plus. So if they won like 35-ish games, they double the amount of wins they had last season. So, you know, bar's low. But honestly, with their new coach in Monty Williams, I think hitting that bar is possible. Right? Monty Williams is really what makes me excited about Cade's development. Was he able to develop guys like Ayton? Not really. I mean, I'm pretty sure Chris Paul did all the work there. But, you know, with Cade Cunningham, Monty Williams, this is their first year together, with Jaden Ivey and Ausar Thompson, this core is actually becoming something. Because in those first few years under the Dwayne Casey rebuild, that core, there was no core. They were just running through terrible draft picks. But Cade Cunningham has a chance to shock the world. That's about it, though. Catch y'all later. Much love. Deuces.
Subscribe to Bound Over. Subscribe to Jimmy's channels. Give a thumbs up.